Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you to hear Nathan speak about these five frameworks that are foundation to teaching digital marketing analytics. Just one other quick reminder, we do have a giveaway going for the people who are participating in the chat and stuff, so make sure to drop some questions down there, drop some comments too. So it's also my pleasure to go ahead and introduce Nathan. So Nathan has over 10 years of experience in digital marketing and business analytics. He has driven results from a range of businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to large health systems such as Cleveland Clinic. He is passionate about teaching currently and serves as an adjunct instructor of digital marketing and analytics at Cleveland State University. He frequently leads workshops and speaks at industry-leading conferences such as Content Marketing World. Nathan is a self-proclaimed health nut and partakes in healthy cooking classes, spinning, and occasional wellness retreat. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn the time over to Nathan to teach us about the frameworks of digital marketing analytics.
Thanks so much, Brad. So let's dive right in. We're going to talk about 5 frameworks that are the foundation, in my perspective, of teaching digital marketing analytics. Again, my name is Nathan David. I'm an adjunct faculty instructor at Cleveland State. Please connect with me. I love connecting with other professors and teachers and just sharing how we teach and how we especially teach in a subject area that's constantly evolving. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see my LinkedIn profile, which is the best place to connect with me. So looking forward to staying engaged. So like Brad said, he alluded to my background. So my background isn't just in academia. I have a lot of professional experience as well. Right out of college, I landed a job at Sapient Publicis, which is a huge digital marketing agency. And at that agency, I got so much great experience with large organizations like Citizens Bank and Nationwide. And I was able to land that job because of a class like the classes that we teach. I took a class by Irene Dickey, and she taught digital marketing. And that class gave me the talking points I needed to land that job. So it's kind of full circle going from that class to teaching the class. So really a shout out to everything that all of us educators are doing to help people, succeed in their careers. So from there, I worked at a smaller agency, and then I worked at Cleveland Clinic. And at Cleveland Clinic, I was a director of digital marketing, and I really enjoyed the part of my job, which was mentoring contractors and employees and training other individuals. And I ultimately decided, I should do this full time instead of just as 10% of my time, let me do that full time. So that's my background and why I'm passionate about what I do with digital marketing and digital marketing analytics. So why digital marketing analytics? So you might have a class at your school or a course at your school on digital marketing. You might have one on social media, on web design. But why should you have a class on digital marketing analytics, or at least dedicate a large portion of one of those classes to digital marketing analytics? I'm super passionate about this because digital marketing analytics, in my perspective, is the language that connects all of digital marketing. So what does that mean? It means that if I'm a paid search associate and I'm running paid ads, if I'm a social media community manager and I'm talking with people on Facebook, if I'm an email marketer and I'm sending emails on a weekly basis, what's the one thing all 3 of those individuals have in common? It's that they can talk to one another and compare performance using digital marketing analytics. And not only that, you can take that digital marketing analytics and go to leadership and say, we need to invest more here, or we need more resourcing because these emails are performing phenomenally. So I'm really passionate about it. Personally, digital marketing analytics differentiated me from my coworkers. So I went from an associate entry-level individual to someone who the CMO turned to me at Cleveland Clinic and he said, we have $8 million. $8 million. It's insane to think about, that much money. And we need to invest it. Nathan, where should we invest it? I was 28 at the time, and my mind was blown that that responsibility was given to me, but it was because I understood digital marketing analytics. Okay, so I'll get off my soapbox. That's why I think this subject is super important, and it can accelerate a student's career really intensely because it will differentiate them from people who can't speak data and aren't comfortable with data. So today I wanted to talk about 5 frameworks, and the reason why I thought it was nice is because people will get overwhelmed with teaching digital marketing analytics because it's constantly changing. The tools are changing and the industry is shifting. And so it's hard to even stand up a course that can be used for more than one semester. And so I created these 5 frameworks, and actually I didn't create all of them or repurposed frameworks from others. And these frameworks are evergreen. So semester after semester, you can use these frameworks. And then these frameworks can be the core of your class or the core of that module of your course on digital marketing. And you can use it to then build on top of it and put in things that have rapidly changed recently. So in-platform experiences and things like that. So this is the core that you build upon. It's the evergreen theories that you can use throughout. And then as I'm going through, feel free to put your thoughts, questions, comments in the chat. Brad is collecting those, and at the end, we'll have plenty of time to walk through them. And so we'll walk through as many as we can with the last 15 minutes of this session. So without further ado, let's get into the first framework. Framework number 1, the most important framework, is the overarching framework that encompasses all the other frameworks. So this is the answer to the question, what is digital marketing analytics? So I call it the digital marketing analytics framework. So rather than giving to my students some complex, convoluted definition that talks about all the different facets of digital marketing analytics, I use this visualization so that they can contextualize where they are within digital marketing analytics and what the different inputs are. So let's start with where our student is. You'll see on the right-hand side, there is a section that starts with analyst, you. So this is me presenting to my students. You are the analyst. The analyst just means a digital marketing analyst, someone who's processing digital marketing data. So my student, you are the analyst. What are you responsible for? You need to question, curate, analyze, and optimize based on the data from digital marketing. So we'll get into that specific part of this framework in more detail later, but that's what the student is in charge of. But it's not just the student, right? And it's not just that analyst at a company. You have your company, and there's different frameworks and biases and business objectives that they have. So there's this business model that influences what that analyst is doing. But where is all this data coming from that you're analyzing? Some of it's coming from business. You have sales data, you have internal data, but a lot of it's coming from outside stakeholders. So that hub of where all that data lives, I call it the digital marketing media. So that includes Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics, Twitter Analytics, what SEMrush, whatever you can imagine. It's all those different tools and platforms that have tons of data that that analyst can and should tap into. And who's contributing information to those platforms? Consumers are the number one contributors of data. So they're going out on the internet, and just by interacting with your website, just by interacting with Facebook, based on their needs, they're contributing a ton of data to all these different media platforms. Also, your competitors are. So if I'm Target, I want to understand how Walmart's using these different platforms and what sort of data that Walmart's putting out into the ecosystem. And then finally, governments are interacting with this ecosystem. They're providing public data, so maybe like census data that might be nice to complement your digital marketing analytics data, but also regulations that say, here's the line, don't cross it. So don't go this far because that would violate someone's privacy. And so that's important for an analyst to know as well. So this is the framework that I use so that the student can contextualize what is digital marketing analytics and where they sit in it. A lot of times when I'm talking about digital marketing analytics with someone, they just start talking about Google Analytics. But Google Analytics is not digital marketing analytics. Google Analytics is a very zoomed in part of this framework. So Google Analytics falls within digital marketing media, specifically within owned media, which we're going to talk a little more about, but it's this one aspect. And so I like to help people zoom out and see the bigger picture. Digital marketing analytics isn't just Google Analytics, there's a lot more to it. So, framework number 2. We're starting with the master framework again, but let's zoom in. We're gonna zoom in on consumers. So when I'm talking about consumers, I refer to them as the digital consumer. And often with my students, I'm saying to them, you are the digital consumer, right? So what are you doing and how are you contributing data to this big ecosystem that businesses might, want to process and act upon? And the best framework that I've found for actually processing consumer data and understanding it and breaking it into actionable pieces is using the McKinsey Consumer Decision Journey. So this is our second framework. So when I'm talking about the digital consumer, I talk about the McKinsey Consumer Decision Journey so that my students can better understand, what does an individual do between knowing they have a problem and a need to actually solving that with a business solution. And so this framework starts with a trigger. So I'm a homeowner, my basement floods. That's a trigger. I have a need. I need to fix my flooded basement. Then I have an initial consideration set. Well, I've used these 3 plumbers in the past, and I know that my mom used this one. So I have 4 options. But then I go into active evaluation. I'm looking at a lot of different information online. I'm doing Google searches. I'm looking at star ratings. I'm looking at pricing. Then I get to that one option that is the right option for me. And I have that moment of purchase. I call up that plumber. I said, come over to my house. Here's my credit card information. Done. So that's the moment of purchase. A lot of times people focus too much on just the moment of purchase, right? How do we get someone to pick up the phone? But you have to think about what is that individual doing beforehand. We have to look at the data before they pick up the phone. How are they evaluating? How are they searching? How are they using social media? Then you go into after the purchase, post-purchase experience. What was the experience like? When that plumber came, he not only fixed the one leak, but he saw 5 other pipes that were at risk of leaking, and he fixed them as well. That was an amazing experience for me. And so I ultimately, next time I have a trigger, let's say I'm putting in a new bathroom in my basement and I need a plumber, rather than going back through this whole consumer journey, I follow that loyalty loop and I just purchase directly from that plumber that I've already used before and I was super satisfied for. So this is important in the context of digital marketing analytics because you want to be able to point your students in the right direction on where they can collect data. Are we collecting data on post-purchase experience? Are we collecting data on initial consideration sets, so on and so forth? So it helps the student understand the consumer more intimately. Framework number 3. So we're starting again with the big master framework, and let's zoom in on the company. So when I'm talking about companies in my class, I talk about the digital company. The digital company is different than the traditional company, and they have access to so much data. And yeah, it's important to highlight the amount of data that they have access to, but one of the number one most overlooked things when I'm consulting businesses is it's not that they have a lack of data, it's they have lack of direction on how to process the data that they have. So to help with that, I teach my students the measurement model framework. So this is a framework that I created that basically takes all those buzzwords that people use in marketing and digital marketing and puts it into a hierarchy so that a student can understand, okay, what's important to a business and how can I contribute to the success for that business? So at the topmost level, you have business objectives. So this is super high level, lofty things. The CEO comes out and says, we're going to increase sales, we're going to reduce costs. These are our high level objectives. Well, obviously that's not super actionable to an entry level employee. How can they individually increase sales? Like, what should they do? So under business objectives, there's goals. And a nice framework that couples with this is the SMART goal framework. So let's create SMART, so specific measurable goals that are actionable that support these business objectives. And so there's multiple goals under each specific business objective. So business objective, to increase sale. Goal, we want to increase website e-commerce sales by 25% by the end of this quarter. Okay, so that's the specific goal. And then under that, you have KPIs, key performance indicators, which are such a buzzword, but it's sometimes hard for students to conceptualize where they fit in. The KPIs are the measurement for your SMART goals. So for that goal of increasing website e-commerce sales, the KPI is e-commerce sales. So how do we influence that KPI? And then as we're monitoring our campaigns or our efforts, that KPI is the key indicator if we're meeting that goal or if we're on track to meet that goal. So this is a framework that I like to use, and it takes all these buzzwords and just puts them into a structure so that a student understands when we're talking about KPIs, what is a KPI? It's a measurement. And a KPI needs to be coupled with a goal as well as a business objective. If you're chasing KPIs, that's not really driving results because you might be chasing the wrong KPI that doesn't tie to a business objective. If you're chasing business objectives of increasing sales, you're probably not going to be very impactful because it's so broad and you're not focused enough in that effort. Framework number 4. So starting again with the master framework, and then let's dive into the analyst. So the student, what does the student do? And this is an iterative framework that I created to help the students understand time after time when they encounter a challenge where there's a need for data, how do they go about that process of collecting, analyzing, and then finally taking action. So this is an iterative framework, and I call it the decision-making framework. So step 1, question. Right here is, how do you identify a business question? So we were talking before about the measurement model where we had business objectives and goals. Well, business questions stem from those goals, right? So if the goal is to increase website traffic by 25%, then the business question there is, what can we do to increase sales on our e-commerce website? So what specific action can we take? So with that question in mind, the analyst needs to then curate, so collect data, organize that data. So that curation for the example of e-commerce performance could look like collecting data from Google Analytics on sales, but then also making sure that that data is organized and connected to revenue data and profits data. So how many sales did we have on our website, but also how much did that actually drive in profits for us? Then moving to analyze. So once you have the data and it's connected to the information it needs to be connected to, we can analyze it. And this is where the heavy lifting happens. So this is where some of those hard skills come in, where you need to know how to use Excel to condense data or correlate data or categorize data or use Python or R. And so that's where more of the hard skills come in and you're trying to derive insights. And then finally, step 4 is optimize. And optimize is so important because I saw too many times in my experience as a consultant and in business where someone had a great idea, but it never was implemented. So optimize is saying, okay, we have the insight, now implement the insight. You need to take action. So if the analyst has control, let's say they have control over the Facebook platform, and they know that from their analysts, analysis. If you mention the charity work that we do, then we get more clicks and engagement. We'll then make sure in the future on the Facebook platform, you're mentioning the charity work. But often the analyst doesn't have control over the platform. So let's say there's an analyst and then there's an email manager, and you want to incorporate that charity messaging into emails. Well, you have to be very skilled at persuasively providing recommendations. And that would be through data visualization and just pervasively saying, this is what you can do. And if you do it, this is how it will impact results. You'll get X amount more sales or whatever that insight might be. So that optimized section, I really like to stress with my students, because you can analyze data all day, but if you don't take action on it, what is the point? It's not gonna make any difference for the business. So the final framework number 5, is the framework that I use most often, and not just for digital marketing analytics, but for digital marketing in general. And we're zooming in here on the digital marketing media. So this framework is the owned, paid, earned media framework, which many people are probably familiar with, but I find it abundantly helpful because there's so many platforms. There's Facebook, there's your website, there's mobile apps, there's email, there's videos, there's listing websites, review websites. There's all this different media out there, and bucketing into these 3 groups helps you talk about those buckets in general, and it helps students wrap their heads around analytics more easily. Because rather than saying, oh, this is what Facebook analytics is like, and then this is what Instagram analytics is like, this is what Twitter analytics is like. Instead, you can say, let's talk about owned analytics and social media analytics within owned analytics. Because we own the content that's going out on them. They all have similar metrics that they're sharing with us: followers, clicks, likes, comments. And so let's talk about it in one big bucket so that a student can take that framework and apply it to whatever platform they use, whether it's TikTok, which is a new platform, or the next new platform that we don't know, exists yet. So what is owned digital marketing analytics? That's analytics on your website, mobile app, email, video, your Facebook page, your Twitter account, your Instagram account, your TikTok account, and other owned social accounts. Paid digital marketing analytics is anything that you're paying for. So you're paying per click, you're paying per 1,000 impressions, you're paying per acquisition. So think of search ads like Bing and Google. Think of display ads like ad networks, like Adometry. Think of paid social, like paid Facebook ads, paid Twitter ads, affiliate and influencer and analytics, if they're doing any sort of that marketing, and e-commerce platform analytics. So think Amazon and the analytics they provide on the e-commerce ads that you can run on Amazon. And the great thing about paid analytics is, since you're paying for those analytics, you end up having a lot of data, because these platforms like Google Ads wants the business to come back again, and again. And so how do they get that business to come back? They give them tons of data so they can justify the spend on Google Ads. And so paid digital marketing analytics has tons of analytics. Own digital marketing analytics has lots of analytics and a lot more flexibility because you own it. And then the most challenging area of analytics is earned marketing analytics. So this is anything that you do not own and you're not paying for and you're earning online. So for example, someone mentions on Facebook, this StuKent conference is amazing. StuKent doesn't own that person's account, and they didn't pay that individual to say it. And so you have very little control over earned, but it's important for you to understand, are people talking about you positively? Are they talking about you negatively? And what sort of earned visibility do we have? So platforms that can help with earned analytics include social listening, organic search, so just looking at how are we earning listings within Google, digital PR, so when we release press releases, are they picked up by a lot of people? External links, do people link to our website and reference it as an authoritative source of information? Reviews and ratings, are we getting good star ratings for our products and for our locations? And so all three of these buckets, owned, earned, paid, have a wealth of information and data. And if a student understands the difference between those different buckets, they can think when they have a business question, what bucket should I reach into and try to extract data from? If I'm trying to understand, post-purchase experience of a consumer, I probably want to try to tap into earned digital marketing analytics. I want to scrape and get data about reviews and ratings, or maybe go into my Yelp page or my Google My Business page and get comments there as well. So it helps really take a huge volume of platforms and helps condense it into 3 actionable buckets. So I'm excited to say that I've partnered with Stu Kent to create a digital marketing analytics textbook. This is the first time that the embargo is lifted and I'm able to say this. So I'm super excited, and hopefully you're excited. The digital marketing analytics textbook has all of these frameworks that I just talked about and more. And so I have the chapter table of contents right after this, so we can talk about everything that's within the textbook. This is the beautiful cover right here, which was recently finalized, so it's quite amazing. We're 90% of the way done. The textbook will be launching in fall, so please register at metaimpact.com/DMA. That will redirect you to Stu Kent's website. Fill out the form, and you can get notified immediately when the textbook is available. But also on top of that, I have a class activity on Data Studio that we're sharing for free as well. So you can get immediate access to that. And I'll talk a little more about what that is in a second. So what's in the book? Everything that I just talked about, right? Why digital marketing, the digital consumer, the digital company, the measurement model, data-driven decisions, so decision-making, data analysis, so getting into the nitty-gritty of, okay, what do you do in Excel to condense? What do you do in Excel to correlate, and so on and so forth? And then optimization and data visualization. So how do you take action? How do you allocate budgets? And how do you visualize the data so you can persuade that CEO or persuade your coworker to take some action? So that's what I talked about today. But on top of that, there's deep dives into all these different platform analytics. So website analytics, social media analytics, mobile app analytics, email and video, earned analytics, paid analytics, and competitive research. And what's cool about this is that we're injecting in each chapter a video tutorial. And so in one of the earlier sessions, they were saying, Stu was saying in the survey that they did of students, the students wanted more hands-on experience and real-world experience with tools that people are using right now. Well, these chapters have video tutorials of tools that are most popular in these categories. So web analytics, Google Analytics, it has a tutorial of how do you create an account, how do you get in, what are the most important aspects of it. For social media analytics, we dive into Facebook Insights, and we go into how you actually look in that platform at the data. Stu Kent's textbooks are updated twice a year. So the amazing thing there is that you don't have to worry about the video being old. If you're just using a YouTube link, that's going to get out of date pretty quickly because these platforms rapidly change. And so these videos will be constantly updated as well. So I think that's a great resource for you and your students. And then coupled with that, there's a lot of demo accounts that I know of for these various platforms. And so I provide links to the demo accounts so the students can actually work with real data, and you can turn that into a classroom activity, or they can just explore it on their own. So this is the second part of the book. The first part is that foundation, teach it the same every year. And then this part is the evolving part. I'll reference the chapter each semester to see how the platforms have changed and the new video tutorials for those different, very in-demand tools that individuals are using. So talking a little about the activity that you get when you sign up to receive notifications for the book. So this is a digital marketing data studio dashboard creation activity. You can do this with your students in real time if they all have laptops in class, or you can assign it as an assignment. When you sign up for notifications about the textbook, you'll receive this instantly, and it provides instructions on how I actually administer it in my class. The great thing here is it's working in tool, so it's actually in Data Studio. Data Studio is a free data visualization tool, very, very similar to Tableau, but free. And I am betting that it will be more popular than Tableau in the coming future because it's free and it's very, very robust. And so you'll see from the screenshot, it has step-by-step instructions for the students to walk through, not only how to interact with an existing dashboard, but also how to create their own dashboard and tell a story with data. So this is ready-made. You can take it, use it in your class as an activity with everyone in real time, or as an assigned assignment. So again, this is the URL you can go to, metaimpact.com/DMA. Also, Adam has posted in the chat a link to this specific form. So you'll get notified about the textbook when it launches in fall. And then also you'll get instant access to this Data Studio dashboard activity. And this dashboard activity is ready to use, or you can just explore it on your own if you're curious, what is Data Studio and how do I use it? So thanks again for joining me. Again, my name is Nathan David. Connect with me on LinkedIn, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of this slide. And then I'll pass it to Brad to jump into some questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Nathan. Great job. So everyone, go ahead and start putting some questions in there. We've already had some really good questions roll in, but take some time, a few minutes just to write in some of your questions that you'd like Nathan to answer for you. So while we're waiting for those questions to come in, just a couple really quick announcements. So right after this, and once again, these times are all in Mountain Standard Time. So from 2 to 3, we do have a networking session. And until 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we do have the expo booth available. So if you want to go talk with anybody about any of the courseware and stuff. So some of the questions. So Nathan, the first question. So it was mentioned earlier at ProfCon that there will be a simulation created for this course. Can you just kind of talk really high level what that's going to look like? And maybe some of the things that are going to go into that?
Yeah, so the simulation is a really exciting addition. So on top of those tutorials that I was talking about in the final chapters of the book, there's going to be a simulation that we're actively creating. And the simulation is focused on budget allocation and then prioritization of analytics projects. And it's based on experiences I've had as a consultant on clients coming to me and saying, I only have this much time or I only have this much money. What should I invest in first? And so we put those students in the shoes of a consultant and they decide this is what's most important for digital marketing analytics. This is the data that we need to make effective decisions. And then based on that, they get more and more data and then they allocate budget accordingly to optimize the campaign. So it's building upon the Mimic Pro PPC-esque simulation, but it has more focus on the strategy and then more broad use case beyond just paid search. It's campaigns that are across social, email, paid search, whatever you can think of is also included in there as well.
Awesome. So another question, I think these two questions actually tie together. Someone asked, what is the target market level for this text? And someone else asked, should this be covered in like a 13 session class for maybe an intro marketing class? But yeah, if you just want to speak to kind of what is the target market for like your textbooks that you're writing right now.
Yeah. So there's, I think, two use cases. There's the use the textbook to complement an existing digital marketing course. So you have a digital marketing course, you talk about analytics, you can leverage the textbook and the resources to get more in-depth into analytics. So go beyond Google Analytics and talk more extensively about analytics as a whole. But then also, I'm an advocate for having a digital marketing analytics course. So this textbook has enough content for you to teach an entire semester-long course on all this content. And so that's what I'd advocate for, because it is the language of digital marketing. If we're going to have a lot of social media courses, I think we should definitely have courses on the language that connects all the different aspects of digital marketing. So those are the two use cases I see. Either to complement an existing digital marketing course to really dive in deep into analytics, or to use as a framework for a digital marketing analytics course, which I think is much needed.
Awesome. So next question. So Monique asked, like the data studio activity, how long would you give access in the class? Is it a 45-minute or project, or maybe over multiple classes?
Yeah, if you request access to the forum within the lesson plan, it actually says the time for it. I believe it's 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes to do it in class. Doing it in class, I walk through it on my end, and then I have the students walk through it as well on their end. And then the nice thing is they can easily share their work with you through a link, and so they can just submit that. So I do it within the class because I find students sometimes get lost, but you also could do it as an assignment where you just have them work on it outside of class.
And then another question is, what data do you use to take students through question, curate, analyze, optimize process? They said, I feel like I always feel like I don't have access to that type of in-depth data that I want.
Yeah, I think a great source that I use, it's funny that, I leverage Data Studio more heavily than Tableau, but Tableau has a great data repository. So if you just search for Tableau sample data, they have this whole list of open source data that you can download. It's easier to download than some of the other platforms where you can get free data from. And then they purposely have selected data sets that are interesting to analyze. So I used one that was on Airbnb rentals, which was very interesting to dive in with my class. But that would be where I would go and look for data sets.
Another question that came in, and I'll speak to this a little bit, and then if you want to add your 2 cents as well, Nathan. So it's been asked a couple times, is like, what's the difference between the book you're writing, the digital marketing analytics book, and the marketing analytics book and the business analytics book? And really the big, the answer there is just like the audience that you're approaching, right? So if you have business majors like that are just taking that business analytics course, that's really where the business analytics textbook comes in, and same with the marketing analytics textbook. The digital marketing analytics textbook is really geared to people who are going into specifically digital marketing. So really great for digital marketing programs. We're seeing more and more of those being pushed through the system more. But Nathan, do you have any other 2 cents on what the difference between your books are and what other book and the other analytics books, just to kind of find the best fit for every professor's class?
Yeah, I think a lot of times marketing analytics and business analytics, they focus on data sets that are internal business data. So you're looking at operational data, sales data, and things like that, and then maybe pairing it with digital data. The digital marketing analytics book starts first with digital data because a lot of times a student or a professional only has access to digital data. They don't have this robust, big data store warehouse where they can tap into. And so it's really a great resource for someone going into a small business or someone going into a mid-sized business where there's not going to be this infinite amount of data and data structure. And then it goes into those tools specifically. So some of the other books will go into digital marketing analytics in the sense of talking about Google Analytics, but this goes much further than that and talks about analytics across all digital platforms and then how you can tap into and leverage that as a student and as a professional.
And then, so the next question was, what prerequisites would you recommend for this class?
So the class doesn't get into the digital marketing 101 of things. And so it assumes that the students have some base understanding of digital marketing, that they understand what email marketing is, that they understand what social media marketing is, that they understand what paid search is. Because the purpose of the textbook isn't to say, this is how you run a paid search campaign. It's, okay, you know what a paid search campaign is. Now analyze the data and create the best campaign possible or the most optimized campaign possible, or let's make recommendations around it. So I would say someone should have some background in digital marketing, so have a digital marketing class. If they haven't taken a digital marketing class and this is being taught in conjunction with a digital marketing class, start with digital marketing and then get into digital marketing analytics. It builds really nicely on top of that base foundational understanding of digital marketing. And then one thing I'll say beyond that is if you have a statistics class, a business statistics class, it would be nice for that to be a prerequisite as well.
Perfect. So another question that came through is, are these models being used in the industry? And then what specifically have you used in your industry jobs?
Yeah, so the most common framework that I've used in the industry is paid, owned, and earned. It's this go-to that consultancies and agencies are using as they talk about digital marketing and analytics, as well as in-house organizations as well. Beyond that, there is a lot of adoption as well of the measurement model. And so that just frames it concretely, but you'll see at organizations the business objective, goal, and then KPI structure. What I say in the book is that it's important for the student to go into an organization, whether they're consulting them or they're working there, and ask questions to understand what their business model is, because it's different at every organization. And I use the analogy, if digital marketing analytics is the language of digital marketing, then the measurement model is a specific dialect that business is using. So Google is going to have a different dialect than Microsoft. So it's important that you understand that. The other frameworks are more heavily used in academia, but they help the student structure these decisions that when you go into a business, the business will just say, okay, like analyze this. And they expect that the student's going to follow the structure intuitively. And so it provides them with that crutch to fall back on when they're asked to do something like, okay, I have a process that I can follow.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. I think that was all the questions that we had come in. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us and sharing that project as well. And we're excited to see your textbook come out here in the next few months. Just a couple of quick things. Just once again, a reminder, you have the networking sessions that are coming out right now. Those are a really good opportunity to go and to meet other professors in maybe a similar situation. So definitely take advantage of this opportunity. And Nathan, if anybody else has any other questions, what's a good way that they can contact you or get in contact with you?
Yeah, so number one, connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Nathan P. David. And then also feel free to shoot me an email. You can email me at nathan.david@metaimpact.com. So that's my consultancy. So feel free to connect. I'd love to just have conversations. If something stood out as compelling or confusing, feel free to reach out. I'm always looking to evolve and enhance what I'm teaching to my students.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate your time today. And we'll go ahead and wrap up the session now.
Yep. Thank you.